Hi guys, welcome. Remember, if you're sitting on the outside, there's good. For people who come late and make sure our phones are off. This is our. That's our authority figure. This is our last nighttime here, and for some of us, it's the last. This is our speaker, and her name, I'm going to butcher, sorry, Urszula, and she's here to talk about creating a sensory lifestyle.
So hello everybody, and Emily, and thank you for the introduction. As Emily mentioned, I'm here to talk to you about creating sensory lifestyle. I am a pediatric occupational therapist, and I have been for the past 16 years. Now, within my career, I started to develop a huge interest around sensory processing and the impact it has on normal development. And as I continued my passion grew, and then as I had my first child just over 4 years ago, I really felt like I wanted to share my knowledge with more people. So what I did is I did actually also create a website, sensorylifestyle.com, which does just that, which is provides information and education to parents and other professionals about sensory processing and the impact that it has on activity development, as well as provide lots of different activities that help to build those strong foundations that our kids need to be able to live successful lives. And that's kind of what I'm hoping in today's presentation, is to give you guys some tools that you can take away to be able to start create a sensory lifestyle at home, to kind of build those sensory foundations with your kids to basically provide them with the skills that they need to succeed. So, in today's lecture, we'll be going through and identifying the 8 sensory systems that we have. Looking at sensory processing, as well as looking at building blocks of development, defining sensory processing difficulties, and again, we'll take away some ideas of the different activities that we could use with your kids to start creating a sensory lifestyle. And I'll discuss some essential ingredients of sensory play. So, before I kind of dive into this information, I'd love for you guys to reflect about yourselves and some of the most memorable activities that you guys did when you were kids. As you guys are thinking about these different activities, like I'm going to share mine. I mean, mine, for example, is my parents bought me this really awesome scales. So I was taking outside with my friends and play shops where we would create mud and make cakes and mud pies. So I would use the sand, the water, the sticks, the dirt. We would use the leaves as currency. Sometimes we needed to climb some of those trees to get the really big leaves that we would use to kind of wrap up the 10 cakes that we would make. And I'm not sure if any one of you would like to share maybe one of your activities that you remember that you did when you were a kid. Anybody? Yeah.
I got in a massive mud fight.
Yep. Perfect. Anybody else? Yeah.
I remember doing a lot of water play. I like the water balloons. Yeah, with my little sisters, and also swimming.
Excellent. So what I want you to do, and I want you to kind of hold these activities, or those memories in your minds as we do go through the presentation. It's something that I'm going to go back to later on. So think about these memories, and we'll come back to it later. But we're going to start with discussing some of the senses. So as I mentioned before, we all have 8 sensory 8 senses within a sensory system. Each of these senses provides the nervous system with food or nourishment. And without a good supply of a variety of these different sensations, our nervous system wouldn't be able to basically function the way it should. So we want to basically provide the children with a lot of experiences in play, outside, and with including those different senses that we're going to be talking about. Now, I'm going to be going through these different senses, and it's also very important to know, as we go through them individually, that these senses not only work individually, but they also work together. Now, the senses are pretty much grouped in senses, external senses that give us information about what is happening outside of our bodies, and internal senses that provide us information what is happening inside of our bodies. So let's start with the external senses, which are the senses that provide us with information on the outside of our bodies. So auditory sense, you guys might be quite familiar with, but this sense provide, the receptors are in your ears, and the information is taken in through the ears, and we get information about the sound, the timbre, the pitch, the loudness. It's very important in basically differentiate different sounds. So if you're in a room, you're able to differentiate a sound from, let's say, TV to a person speaking next to you. And it's also extremely important in overall language development. The next sense that we have is visual sense, which is vision. So information is taken in through the eyes and provides information about what we see. So the shapes, the colors, what's happening basically in our environment. So here we're not only talking about how well you're seeing things, so the visual acuity, but we're also talking about how your eyes are coordinating together, how they're moving, the tracking, scanning, as well as visual perception. It's also very important for identifying the non-verbal cues, which obviously we need for social interactions. Vision also helps to really guide our movements as we use it to scan our environment. The next sense is the gustatory sense, which is taste, and this information is taken in through the mouth. So it provides us information about the characteristics of the food that we take in. So what's sour, what's sweet, what's salty. And you guys were all using it very well while you were kind of munching away right now. It also lets us know if something is harmful for our bodies. The next one is olfactory sense, which is smell. So the information is inhaled through the nose. And again, this information provides us about the different smells that we get. Is it floral, fruity? It also lets us know if there's dangerous smells around, so it keeps us safe. And it also may activate different emotions and memories, so it really kind of influences what you like and what you don't like. The next system is the tactile sense. And this is the sense that gives us information through the skin. It provides us information about touch, pressure, pain, hot, cold, vibration. It helps us understand our surroundings and feeling safe and creating bond with loved ones. It provides us very important information which is required for skilled use of tools such as pencils, other utensils. And it contributes to the development of body awareness, which is extremely important for overall motor development. Now moving on, we're going to go through the internal senses. So the internal senses basically tell us information about what is happening inside our bodies. So the first sense is the vestibular sense. The vestibular sense, its receptors are located in your inner ear, and it provides you information about where you are located in space. So it tells you, is your head right side up, is it upside down, how fast you are moving, how slow you are moving. It helps to kind of build balance. It helps with posture development.
it really allows you to be able to move through space. It also helps creating a good muscle tone and help keeping you basically upright from the gravity. It helps also to maintain stable visual field. Without a well-integrated vestibular system, our vision would actually be moving as we are moving around. And again, it provides physical and emotional security. I mean, knowing that your feet are flatly planted on the ground makes us feel very secure. So basically, this sense tells us where we are in space. It's able to adjust our bodies and really kind of maintain that posture and the balance and the equilibrium. Now, the next sense is the proprioceptive sense. This is the sense where the receptors are located in your joints, muscles, tendons. It's all about how your actual body is moving. So what it does, for example, it allows me to pick up this water bottle without actually monitoring every single step. So, you know, without me needing to really evaluate to make sure I'm able to grasp this bottle. It helps me make sure I use the right amount of force to be able to hold this bottle without letting it slip through my fingers. It allows me to make sure that if I'm bumped, I don't lose my balance and I'm able to kind of regain my stance. It definitely helps with the development of all the motor skills, so the fine and the gross motor skills. Now, the last sense is interoception. Now, interoception is a sensation that tells us about what's happening within our bodies, but it's from the organs. It helps to regulate blood pressure, digestion, breathing. It lets us know when we're hot, when we're cold, when we need to go to the bathroom, if we're hungry and thirsty. That's pretty much interoception. So, as you see, we have all these different senses that really provide us all this information about what's happening outside and inside of our bodies. Now, what we need to do is have good sensory processing to really be able to function in our daily lives. So sensory processing is basically, let's see if I can use this right. So here we have all the different senses that I've just mentioned. Now what happens is that our bodies take information through all these different senses. Then all the neural impulses send information to our central nervous system in our brain, where this information is then integrated, it's processed, and then given meaning. And once we have that meaning, then we take in information through all the different senses, then the information is sent to the brain, where it's being processed, integrated, and then the information is sent back out to the body for action. So, for example, here we have a child eating. So what would happen is when the child wakes up in the morning, the interoception would let him know that he's hungry. And then his hearing would allow him to be able to hear his parents call out to him and let him know that his cereal is ready for him to eat. So then what he would do is he would use his internal senses, so the vestibular sense and the proprioceptive, to easily basically get to the kitchen or to the dining table, wherever that he's eating, without bumping into things, tripping over, and without much focus on what he needs to do and how he needs to move his feet. Then once he sits down, those senses plus a tactile sense would help him to make sure that he doesn't fall out of his chair. He's able to appropriately grasp his spoon and then lift it up and put it in his mouth. And as he's eating, obviously his taste would be able to let him know if the milk is not off, is it too sour, is it just perfect to consume. So you can see that even just in one act, there's just so many senses that are being used. So they've really had at work the whole entire day. Now, I do want to mention somebody very important is Dr. Jean Ursz, and she was an occupational therapist who basically started the whole theory around sensory processing and the whole intervention and the assessment. She was a leading researcher. She developed over 50 manuscripts in peer-reviewed journals, and she basically proposed that we are all sensory beings and process all the sensory information that we get throughout the day, and then able to adapt our actions to whatever the sensory information we received. So for example, if I'm walking down the corridor, I receive continuously all the sensory information, and if somebody bumps me, my body is able to make sure that I don't fall on the ground. I mean, if I do, I can use my body senses to make sure that I don't get hurt, but the body is able to readjust and take all that sensory information that, oh, I moved off balance, and to get me back on track. Now, another great occupational therapist, Dr. Lucy Jane Miller, she is also leading therapist in this field, and she put together this information, this kind of visual, and I guess you don't need to pay attention to absolutely everything on it, but the main things that I do want you to pay attention to is right at the bottom, the red colors are all the different senses that I just mentioned. So what happens is, and then as you go, there are more complex skills. So things like fine motor skills, gross motor skills, your oral motor skills, as well as your planning, sequencing, emotional regulation, and social participation. So all of these skills are basically affected by how well your foundation is built. The foundation is how well you're able to process and integrate those senses. So basically, this is just a visual to show you how important it is to have that strong foundation, that strong sensory foundation that really gives you appropriate skills to be able to build up more complex skills. Now, to take another example of sensory development, here is a girl who's very easily stacking some rings. Now, for her to be able to successfully do that, she needed a lot of tactile experiences, a lot of proprioceptive experiences in order to be able to grasp those rings and then with ease put them on without overshooting or undershooting those rings. She also needed to be a very active participant in those particular activities. And as we do build those strong sensory foundations, we're able to generalize the skills to other areas and then basically move up the developmental ladder for more complex and mature skills. So I guess what I wanted to do is obviously provide you guys with a lot of tools that you could use to be supporting your kids' sensory development. But I think it's important to also know that what happens when the sensory processing doesn't work the way it should. So I'm going to quickly just kind of mention the kind of sensory processing difficulties that can arise. So if we imagine our body as a big city, and here we have cars which could represent the neural impulses within our bodies, you can see that when everything works well with sensory processing, the information flows into the brain, gets interpreted, provided meaning, and then flows out, and you're able to appropriately react to whatever is happening. Now, when the sensory processing doesn't work the way it should, it's more like traffic jam, where the neural impulses or the cars, get lost along the way, or the messages might not get where they should. So the information can be processed accordingly, and then the information that they send back to the body is not accurate. So that starts affecting your kids' functioning in their everyday life. Now, there are different types of sensory processing difficulties. There are sensory modulation difficulties, and this is how your central nervous system is able to regulate the sensory stimuli. So it's all about how much does this sensation regulate me. So the kids who might have difficulties in the area, they may be maybe oversensitive to sensory stimulation. So they receive the sensation and feel it much more intensely than a person with a typical sensory system. So they might avoid certain situations. There may be more tantrums as well, and overall kind of sensitivity to a lot of different sensations. Then there could be children who are under-responsive to sensory stimulation. So this is where they need a lot more information to really kind of get them going. So these kids might be more sedentary, might be seen more like lazy and just really uninterested and exhausted. And then there are kids who really seek out sensory stimulation. So those are the kids that, you know, love the jumping, the bouncing, the pushing, the crashing, those kind of sensations. Then we have sensory discrimination difficulties. So this is about kind of differentiating the different qualities of the sensory stimulus. So what is the sensory stimulus? What is this experience that I'm feeling? So this provides information about you know, the similarities and differences between the different stimuli. Is this loud? Is this soft? Is my right hand stretched higher than my left? Is this bucket really heavy that I'm carrying, or is it really soft? Is this P or B? So, you know, how fast or how slow am I moving? All those different qualities. Now, the kids who do struggle with that, you know, they may not be very aware when they are falling out of the chair. They might reverse their letters. They may hold their pencils really, really tightly. They may not know when they're speaking loudly or softly. The last part is the sensory-based motor difficulties. This is all about how a child is moving and completing new skills. So the postural difficulties are all around the core strength, the endurance, how you're able to move your body. So, you know, are you able to stabilize your body in movement? So what does that mean? Is I'm able to kind of keep my body and not lose my balance as I go down to the floor to pick up a toy that I dropped. Or am I able to maintain my body stable and still when I'm seated in the chair without fidgeting too much? You know, those kids might have difficulties with also bilateral coordination, so being able to use two sides of your body. So they might have difficulties maybe riding a bike or doing craft activities or using scissors, for example. Then there's the dyspraxia, or also known as motor planning, and this is the ability to be able to move your body and figure out what your body needs to do when it comes to completing new motor skills. And the key is new motor skill. So it's all about what's happening is there's some cognitive process in your brain that first figure out what you're trying to do. So let's say if you're trying to ride a bike. First, your brain really needs to figure out, what do I want to do? I want to get on the bike and I want to get going. Then your brain needs to figure out, okay, how am I going to do that? So I'm going to be needing to kind of, you know, hold onto the handles, lift up one of my legs, sit on the seat, and then pedal forward. And then the last part is actually execution. So actually physically getting on the bike and riding. So the kids who have difficulties in this area, they may have problems learning new skills. They may be more awkward, more clumsy, and may not really want to participate in a lot of different activities. So as occupational therapists, what we usually do is we usually like to kind of rule out all the other behaviors before we do think it's sensory. And a lot of us, you know, throughout the days and throughout our lives, you know, our sensory system is not always perfect. You know, there are times when we are ill, we're sick, we're tired, where the sensory processing doesn't work really well. It only starts becoming an issue, or a red flag, should I say, if it really starts affecting the everyday functions of a child. Now, if a child does have significant sensory processing difficulties, the sensory play activities that I guess we're going to be talking about today, they may not have a great impact on these individuals. And for those specific individuals, I really do recommend full occupational therapy evaluation. But I guess now what I want to do is start focusing more on the different, building kind of some knowledge around what kind of things you can do. But also think back now to the activities that we're talking about at the beginning. I'm hoping that you all have an activity that you have in your mind. And I mean, think about how you are feeling. I mean, for the ladies that were describing their activities, you know, I heard fun, I had, you know, there was a lot of laughter, a lot of joy. So there was really a lot of positive experiences associated with it. And also start thinking about the different senses that you were using. So, with the mud, right, there was a lot of, tactile experiences, movement experiences. You needed to obviously get down, get the mud, and then throw it. So there was a lot of moving of your body. Same with the water fights. There was a lot of kind of tactile experiences and moving body around. And even with mine, you probably notice similar theme. A lot of kind of tactile experiences by exploring the dirt, the branches, the leaves, and moving around, getting those leaves, climbing those trees, and picking up those leaves to use. So this is basically kind of the idea that I want you to think about when you're thinking about your kids and building their sensory foundations, is including those activities that are really full bodies and lots of different sensations. Now, in her theory, Dr. Jean Ayres, what she was saying is to really focus on strengthening those sensory foundation systems. It's excellent to focus on the body-centered senses. So the tactile sense, the proprioceptive sense, and the vestibular sense. So we will focus about talking about activities that focus basically on these particular senses. So again, just to revise, the tactile sense is anything that's kind of impinging on your body. The proprioceptive sense is when your muscles are being stretched, and the vestibular sense is when your head is moving in different directions. Now, as we go through these different activities, all of these activities develop and strengthen the sensory foundations, but simultaneously they have a lot of great other benefits. The benefits range from, including strengthening your fine motor skills, your gross motor skills, your visual skills, your posture, your control, the strength of your core, your upper body, your hands. Also, helping with bilateral coordination, eye-hand coordination, as well as the motor planning. And at the same time, these sensory activities that also have a regulating effect. So the sensory activities can be categorized between calming activities, alerting, and organizing. So calming activities is something that basically helps to calm your mind and body, and these activities are great to do, before and after stressful events. Alerting activities are the ones that wake up your body and mind. They're also great during long meetings. So if anybody does need to get up and stretch, I'll completely understand. I would love for you to make sure you get as much as you can out of this. So if you do feel yourself dozing off, usually, lighting is, dim lighting is very calming. So it's quite natural for you to start really relaxed. So alerting activities are great during those times. And then organizing activities. Organizing activities are great for basically any time. Organizing activities, if you are very high up, it helps to get you down, and if you're really down low, it helps to get you up. So doing them anytime, you can't go wrong. The problem is if you're trying to get your kids to sleep and you start doing alerting activities, then that's going to be a little bit more trickier for you. Okay, so let's get into these activities, and I'm going to start with talking about the proprioceptive sensory experiences. Now, proprioceptive activities are basically very powerful organizing activities. So remember how I was talking about the alerting, calming, and organizing? Any proprioceptive activity that you do is organizing. So if you're unsure, to organizing. And organizing activities, it's all about the heavy work activities. So you see the lifting, the pulling, the pushing, the carrying, crawling, kind of hanging type of activities. I do have some pictures here that you might see. It's all about, kind of exploring different environments through hanging on things, through climbing, through lifting things, carrying things. So also start thinking about activities that you guys are already doing with your kids. Now, there's a lot of different activities that you can do. Playgrounds are absolutely amazing for a variety of different sensory skills that you can practice there. So when we think about proprioceptive sense, it's all about heavy work. So the digging of the sand, carrying heavy buckets of sand or water, climbing, hanging on monkey bars. There's those, great diggers that you kind of get in and you have to figure out how to use to kind of dig sand and then, drop it in another spot. At home, lots of kind of pushing the laundry baskets around or carrying bags of toys or helping out with the grocery bags or gardening, if they're doing some shoveling or raking, anything like that, pushing a shopping cart around, climbing, absolutely amazing activity. If you get anything from today, there's a few things that I want, but climbing is one of them. Get your kids to climb anything. Playground structures have so many different ways that you can climb. But also, go outside of that. Trees, rocks, anything is super beneficial. Doing lots of animal walks, wheelbarrow walking, crawling. And you see these activities, they are quite simple and feel free to kind of expand on them. So use this as foundation. So, maybe you see on the animal walk, there's a crab walk. So maybe you can get your kids and play soccer with them while they're in the crab walk. Or you can maybe try to do, some races or anything like that. So try to think outside of the box with the activities that I give you as well. Tug of war, wrestling or pushing down, like what I call the statue. It's one of my other favorite activities, and we do it pretty much every single day in our house. And it's all about getting in like a stable stance position where it's on all fours or in a tall kneeling position, and then your partner, your child, because you guys can obviously switch roles, comes in and tries to push you over. Whether it's with their hands or with their body, or maybe you push with pillows or cushions, anything will do. Just getting them, try to knock them over. And let's see some of the dads smiling. Great, I hope you guys are doing it with your kids. And then, so you want to be providing some resistance to get that heavy work, but also help them win. And then once they are on the floor, once you are on the floor and you get knocked over, get them to help you out. There's some extra proprioceptive input happening right there. Yoga is excellent as well, playing bulldozer. So one of the child might sit in the box, and the other person or child might push the load around. And again, using whether their hands or their back, whatever works. And playing with resistive tools, so Play-Doh, spray bottles, hole puncher, clothes pegs. And again, think outside of the box. Don't just get them to put clothes pegs on, but include that into if you have children that would like to hang their dolls' clothes, get them to have a pretend, clothing line that they can kind of use the pegs to kind of hang the clothes and so forth. So then we're going to move on to tactile sensory experiences. Now, basically, any calming activity or the calming touch is any of the deep pressure, firm touch, or neutral kind of warmth. The alerting activities are more kind of light moving touch of varied textures. Now, the different tactile sensory inputs that you can have is, as I said, light touch. So tickling is very kind of alerting and light. Playing with varied textures, so again, feathers and so forth. Deep touch, which is kind of hugs and squeezes, and vibrations, another tactile input. Then you can play around with the different textures. So there's dry textures, so fabrics, dry rice, corn, flour, anything like that. Then there are wet textures, water, paste, jello, mud, water beads, anything like that. And then there's also mixed textures, which is combining both the wet and the dry. Here's some more photos of my two boys. The first one here on the left is just playing mud kitchen. This is such a great tactile experience. You can do, dry textures that then maybe become wet textures. If you add sticks and leaves and things like that, that's the combination of the different ones. It could be, using the full hands to kind of get the experiences. Here's playing with different, on the right, with different textured fabrics, so a towel over his head. So, don't forget about the face. There's a lot of tactile receptors here too. and obviously kind of getting dirty in the mud. And trying to involve like a full body as well. So here on the beach, you know, sand through the whole body. Play-Doh that can be used with various different textures. You can add things to it. Also, you know, different Play-Dohs have different textures, so or consistencies. The homemade Play-Doh is much different to the store-bought Play-Doh. So there's a lot of variations there too. You know, getting paint on the face, and here on the bottom left actually is an activity that kind of prompts me to mention that even though he's using a lot of tactile senses there to explore the different foods, one activity doesn't necessarily just target one particular sense. So the activities may have like a primary sense, but there's also additional senses that really go hand in hand with it. So here, as he's exploring the different foods, he's using obviously his tactile sense, but as he starts getting to that chopping, that's more heavy work. So that is that's a proprioceptive kicking in. So different tactile activities, sensory beans. There's so much information online. I'm sure you guys see lots on Pinterest and everywhere they keep popping up. I did bring a couple of examples just to kind of show you how you can interact with them. So one here is a dry texture, so it's a colored rice. I do apologize, I can't kind of flip it, but feel free to later kind of come over and have a look. So it's colored rice, which by the way is extremely easy to make. All you do is just get a Ziploc bag, put some rice in it, and put some food coloring in, and shake, shake, shake. And you're done. Dry it out. That's it. So get your kids involved in kind of making these sensory beans as well. So there's, you know, obviously you can use different things where you can, you know, obviously be scooping, pouring, but you can even get more advanced and you can get some tongs. And here I have like tiny little aliens. So, you know, they need to go around searching, finding, and picking up other objects. Here I have another example, and these are beads. These are the water beads, which are also very popular, wet texture, and so you can play with it various ways. You can add more water, you can even add shaving cream for another idea. Or here I added some, you know, harder objects as well, so you can kind of practice more tactile sense kind of aspects by getting them to close their eyes and, okay, looking through, find all the hard objects, for example. Now, if you have some kids who still eat and put things in their mouth, I recommend boa pearls. They look exactly the same, they're just not as vibrant, but it's pretty much the same thing, same experience. There are a lot of other things that you could do on my website if you're ever interested to kind of have a look. I have a sensory lifestyle recipes section, and there's things that like, you know, ubelik. I mean, that's super fun. That's cornstarch and water combined together, lots of fun. Clean mess, I love that. That's really funky texture. It's just soapy water and lots of toilet paper, and you kind of mix it up. Really slimy, very fun. You know, puff paint, gag or slime, which is again very, very popular. So it's all about kind of exposure to all the different sensations. And, you know, we spoke about kind of the wet and the dry, but things have a lot of other qualities. Things have different temperatures. Some things are hot, some are warm, some things are cold, soft, you know, smooth, bumpy, spiky. There's a lot of other things that really go into it. Then we have, you know, painting. Painting is super fun. And, you know, painting can be done various ways. So it can be, you know, finger painting, or kind of even putting the paint on the floor, doing some stomping. And you can make up different brushes that you can do, not just necessarily the standard brushes, but with sponges and so forth. Play-Doh, I already mentioned that. Sand, mud kind of activities. Shaving cream. If you're like me and don't really like the smell of shaving cream, there's something which is called foam soap, which smells really nice and has usually pink and blue colors, and you can get that from Target. I kind of like that one. you know, getting them in the kitchen, obviously not when you're rushing and you have only 20 minutes to get the dinner on the table, but when you do have a little bit more time, you know, have them kind of explore the different textures of different foods, whether it's tearing the lettuce or just washing up or whatever it is. Textures collages are really fun, and try to go outside the box and not just get the standard pom-poms and straws, but you can, you know, go into a dollar store and go into the kitchen section and maybe get some of the sponges and use those, getting the kids to cut up. Maybe go into the bathroom section and get some loofahs to kind of cut up and stick on that. So kind of, you know, get creative with what you can use. And you know, for the smaller kids, you can basically get a contact paper, flip it the other way around so the sticky side is up, and getting them to paste those different textures on. For a little bit of the older kids who are into gluing, you can just use the standard glue and pasting them on. Then gardening, again, you see I come back to it, and here it's more about interaction with the dirt that you can get the tactile sense. Dipping fingers into lotions and yogurts, whatever it is, and painting on their skin, or using finger paint the face paint on their faces. What's inside the box is basically trying to, you know, you can get a pillowcase and put different objects in it, such as bowl, little toy cars or little dolls or different things, and then without using their vision, getting their hands in and trying to find out different things. Or you can say, can you find me a bowl? So without using their eyes, they would have to put their hand in and feel around and find the bowl. Playing dress up, forts, you know, kind of, I think in the proprioceptive sense I missed it, but you know, building forts is great. And here, once you have those forts built, you can put lots of different textures, blankets, things. I brought this really funky, I really love this pillow. It's actually a vibrating pillow, so when you press it, it vibrates. So that's another sensation that the kids can kind of explore. And outdoors is such an amazing place. There's so many different things that you can really explore and feel. The next sense is the vestibular sense. Now these activities are anytime your head basically changes directions. Now, vestibular stimulation is actually a very powerful sensation for the nervous system. So these are not activities where you kind of get a child bouncing for, you know, an extended period of time. There are some signs that if you do those activities for too long, the child can get overstimulated, and you might see some of the signs that I listed here. There might be some cold sweating, color changes, dizziness, change in breathing, yawning, nausea. You might even see vomiting. If you spin them for too long, you know, vomiting. Now, don't get freaked out if your child ever does vomit. It's just their nervous system getting rid of that kind of the negative sensation that they were feeling. But if you do overdo it and they are overstimulated, what I recommend you do is you want to kind of override that vestibular stimulation by some heavy work. So with heavy resistance, you know, you can do lots of kind of sucking or jumping or pushing, pulling, or getting some ice pads or ice, putting in the palm of the heads, the back of the neck, and the temples. That would also help to kind of override that. Now, some of the vestibular experiences that you might have is, I do want to, okay, sorry, before I go on. So with the movement activities, the calming activities are the slow and kind of the rhythmic movements, and the alerting one are the fast where the direction changes. So when you're doing these different activities with the kids, just you know, think about that. Now, so the sensory experiences that you want to include is just not a simple, let's say, swinging on a swing in the park, but you want to think about your child's head in various positions. So sitting upright, lying on the tummy, lying on their back, standing, side lying, or upside down. Every single time the head is in different position, it actually uses the different receptors in the inner ear. So it stimulates different parts of the vestibular system. And then providing different types of movements. So linear movement, for example, is when you're using a bike or a scooter to kind of go forward or back, or even like bouncing on one of those exercise balls up and down, that's linear. So it's forward, back, kind of up and down. And then angular. So a swing is angular because it's actually an up when you're going, and those merry-go-rounds. I personally really love Magical Bridge Playground. There's just so much different movement equipment the kids can get on, so that's super fun. And so yes, a movement that's sustained, so kind of goes at one speed, or transient, so it kind of varies the different speeds, and slow or fast. Here are some pictures of the different activities, and as you see, it's all about the heads being changed in different positions. Some roller coasters, yoga again, jumping, slides, being basically upside down. So where can you get all these experiences? Playground, again, fabulous place. There's so many swings and slides and all this other moving kind of equipment. And also, you know, you might even see your kids like automatically change their head positions for different things. You know, when they go on a swing, they don't just, you know, sit on it and swing that way. You know, some of the kids might even lie on their tummy and, you know, change kind of their position that way, or might even hang upside down. So there's a lot of instincts in kids to kind of explore and play. So we want to make sure that we provide them with opportunities to basically do that. Jumping, trampoline, mattresses, riding a bicycle or tricycle, rolling downhill, super fun, spinning games, rolling, bouncing on exercise balls, rocking horse, rocking chair, yoga. Again, there's a lot of kind of upside down movements. And upside down movement is actually a very calming sensation. What it does is actually stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is very calming. And you know, sometimes you might notice if your kid is stressed or needs a bit of a break, that might actually put them in a position where the head is more upside down. My son, what he likes to do is he likes to hang his head on the side of the couch and just kind of like hang there for, you know, half a minute or so, and then he's back. You know, body bowling, so, you know, maybe you can build from empty bottles or, you know, empty shoe boxes, just, you know, some kind of a creation, and the kids can then roll and then knock it over. Swinging in a hammock, running while occasionally changing directions, so that's kind of chase games. Using cells, so dancing, spinning, turning upside down, all these different things. Adding visual targets, so we already spoke about a body roll, which adds a visual target that they have to get. Bowling is super fun. Now, don't just again think about the standard bowling. You can do it lying on your tummy and knocking it over. You can do it upside down, backwards, and then rolling the ball through your legs and knocking the bowling pins over. You can even get into the crab walk and then kicking it to try to knock the pins over. And, you know, beanbag tosses, things like that, even while, you know, bouncing on the ball, or, you know, even kids jumping on a mattress while they have maybe different balls or some soft toys that they can throw into a laundry basket. And obstacle courses, creeping, crawling, climbing, stepping up and over, walking, backwards, hopping and jumping. All these activities are great. And again, you know, think outside of the box. For example, my son is very much into, you know, volcanoes and lavas at the moment. So we throw random pillows across the floor, and then we need to get from one side to the next, and then, you know, create other obstacles courses. So, you know, be creative with your kids' interests. And I think that leads me really nicely to looking at the essential ingredients for sensory play. So you do want to tap into your child's inner drive. So like I said, my child at the moment, it's volcanoes and dinosaurs and so forth. So I use that regularly in our play. So think about what motivates your child, because if you're playing games with them, including these different bits and pieces that I told you, they are much more motivated to challenge themselves. And when they're challenging themselves, they are developing new skills and really kind of pushing themselves up the developmental ladder. You also want to provide just the right challenge. So mastery really is very important. You do not want to create activities that are too hard for them to complete. You want mastery, but at the same time, you don't want the activities to be easy and too boring. So you want to find just the right challenge. So if you're finding that activity is too difficult, maybe help them out a little bit. And active participants, so make sure that the children actually are active in the play. Now, I guess to kind of bring it all together is hopefully you're seeing that you really want your children to be playing with their whole bodies. So moving by running, by jumping, by creeping, by also touching things. So you really kind of want to expose them and give them opportunities to do that. The more you do that, the more their senses are integrated, the easier it is to climb that developmental ladder. Now, so as I said, through the full body movements, they really learn about how to use their bodies and maneuver themselves around the environment. And with kind of manipulation of hand, of different small things, they really develop, how to use their hands appropriately. Now, you do want to be a little bit cautious when you present an activity and they want to completely avoid it. There usually is a reason for them, so give them some time before they complete it, support them with it, and don't kind of push them onto it. And I guess one of the last thing is also embrace opportunities. I don't want you to feel living here that all of a sudden you need to be creating all these new things with them. Embrace the opportunities when you are out and about or at home. If you get a delivery and there's an empty cardboard box, use that. Get them to play in it, get them to draw in it, get them to get in and out. Use that as cars, planes, doll houses, and then maybe even get them to pull the box apart. I mean, that's great proprioceptive input just there. You can, if you get furniture from IKEA, let's say, get them to help you out building it. I mean, that's a lot of heavy work in itself. I have just, a few examples. This is just literally in the last few weeks with my kids where we were able to embrace the opportunities. The first one is we went to like a science museum, and she ended up being at the water, which we spent more time outside than inside. But, they found mud. I mean, the exploration, the tactile senses in there, the mud was cold. But even if you think walking through mud and kind of lifting your feet, that kind of gets heavy work. Then we went for a hike, found a creek, so lots of balancing kind of things, lots of digging, picking up sticks, throwing, lots of heavy work, lots of changing of head direction, lots of tactile experiences. And another one here is at Seven Seas Park, where we kind of left the park, and then my kids found a hill, so we just kind of dug in the dirt and kind of really got into it. Now, I know you guys are probably all looking at it going, oh my God, they're going to get so messy. I know it's probably a little bit overwhelming, but think about your experience when you were a kid. It's all about getting messy. It's all about exploring and moving with your whole body. The way that I found to kind of stay sane while they're exploring it is to always pretty much pack an extra bag of clothes and wet wipes. So I guess I would recommend that. And I guess the main thing is, look for that joy when they are experiencing different things. I mean, look at eating that watermelon. So much joy in here. And also, so all the experiences should really be fun, and not only for your kids, but for yourself as well. So I'm hoping that you guys were able to kind of, gain some skills and some tools that are going to be able to, you're going to feel more confident and playful with your kids while, strengthening their bodies and their minds. Now, I know sometimes coming out from conferences or lectures, you might feel overloaded with the amount of information that you got. So while I was planning for this presentation, I thought it might be a great idea to develop what I call a 7-day sensory lifestyle challenge. So I'm in the works of developing it, and what basically it is, it's an email that you would be receiving every single day for 7 days with an idea of a play activity that you can you can do with your child. And hopefully that can maybe ease your journey into creating a sensory lifestyle within your home.